Is the mainstream media trying to brainwash us? I think so, and I'll show you how. The Monica Perez Show starts now. This is Monica Perez, your libertarian voice on News 95.5 and AM 750 WSB. Every Saturday from 3 to 6. I am back at my regular time, but this is not going to be a regular show. I had a super rough week. If you ever hear the expression, you look like you lost your best friend? Well, I actually lost my best friend this week. My friend Liz died, and I wasn't sure I could or should do the show, but I decided to go ahead with it because she was a huge fan. She knew how important the show is to me, and it would have really bummed her out if I canceled it. So I decided to do something a little bit different, something I think she would have really liked, something that would cheer me up. I think we could all use a little cheering up these days because no matter which side of the aisle you are on, it's not very uplifting to watch the news, follow the news. So I wanted to do something that I thought would kind of help me turn the corner, and something I thought Liz would like. And this is what I have in mind. She was a convert. Liz was a convert. She used to be a liberal, and then she became a hardcore conservative. And it's like when, smokers, like former smokers or recovering alcoholics, like have no tolerance for smokers or drinkers anymore. She had no tolerance for liberals. And I mean, she thought she actually registered as a libertarian after listening to my show, but she was really just a hardcore conservative. And if you even mentioned Keith Olbermann's name, and I know her family and friends are probably listening today, they know that this is true. She would just roll her eyes and groan, like many of us do, I think. But so I thought it'd be funny and fun to pull together some of the kind of crazier things that the liberal media is coming up with these days. It's getting shrill. It's getting fanatical. It's, if it really manages to turn this country upside down, it'll be scary. But in the meanwhile, I do actually think it's so ridiculous that it's funny. So Binkley is going to he's really put a lot of effort into trying to pull together clips that will help kind of fit the mood of the show, demonstrate these kind of extreme, preposterous liberal memes that are coming across these days. So, Binkley, thank you so much for all that extra work. And I do. So did you, in pulling all this stuff together, did you come up with a kind of a theme? What's the general tone of what you've discovered and pulled for us?
Well, the general tone is lunacy, is what the general tone is. But they've kind of created this alternative universe where they're pushing these themes that it's absolutely crazy to believe that Obama might have tapped Trump's wires. Another theme is that Trump is definitely tied to Russia. We just need to find the evidence. And the other theme is just be very afraid all the time.
Yes, this has been going on. I know you and I have noticed this for weeks, if not months, but really it's reached a fever pitch in the past couple of weeks. But this week, for obvious reasons, I did not do my normal, reading the journal cover to cover, tuning into the news, surfing the web all day long to try to figure out what's going on. But I did try to pop in and check the headlines every once in a while, and it really felt to me like every single time I checked the headlines, it was about the Trump's tweet that Obama wiretapped Trump Tower. It's I think this is weeks old by now.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. And here's the thing that's so crazy about it is that, I say stuff like this and people get all mad and they call. You can call and be mad if you want. But it's, to me, it was so unimportant for a couple of different reasons. One is that it was just Trump just popped off at Obama. It could be, it's unstatesmanlike, I guess, but that's actually what people like about Trump. It's this raw, unfiltered reaction. When you're writing 140 characters, I know this was your response right away. We tweet all the time. I think I have 11,000 tweets. To put a complex thought in 140 characters is you give people a lot of latitude. But what was really, for me, more important than that was how self-evident the comment is. Maybe it wasn't Obama with a stethoscope listening in, through the plaster, but it was so obvious that for reasons that are in evidence. First of all, if people have been listening to my show for a while, my entire theme of the Obama presidency for years, I called him the surveillance president. People think it was Obamacare or just socialism generally. From the beginning, my view has been the most significant thing that Obama did and what he was there for, number one, was to implement the total surveillance state. That's what his job was, to keep anybody on the left who actually cared about privacy and all that kind of stuff quiet while he made this what is a stepping stone to totalitarianism. And then that's just was obvious to me. Then you had a couple of other things like all the NSA revelations. You had Snowden, this recent WikiLeaks data dump called Vault 7. If you haven't heard of it, I think it was my last show on that. Even though I think Snowden and Vault 7 are inside jobs and limited hangouts where they're doing it for some reason, the information is real. I mean, NSA is spying on us, me, you, Obama, Trump. They're all over it. It might not be that interesting. I'm not sure they really care when I tell my kids they have to clean their room before I get home, on my email. I don't think they really care about it. But when they do care, they have it so they can look it up. And then you have like actual examples of it. So the National Security Advisor, Flynn, actually lost his job in record time because there were wiretaps of his phone. I mean, maybe wiretaps in quotes of his phone. And and somebody leaked it. And then people don't use this example, but Dennis Kucinich talked to Gaddafi's son before Hillary and her gang toppled that regime, had him killed, and that conversation Kucinich had was recorded and much, much later leaked. And Kucinich said he had no idea that he doesn't know who did it, just was not aware of that. So we know it's done. We know it's done constantly. And I started to wonder, why is this round the clock on the news for weeks? And it hit me like a ton of bricks. This is a classic distraction. This is an absolute distraction. And what I think they're distracting us from, if you just turn the page, that's all over the front page. If you go to the second page, you have American soldiers now are fighting in Syria. They're not there training. This is right? Did you catch how significant that is? Yeah. It's so underplayed in the media.
They don't bring it up at all.
No. And then we're bombing the crap out of Yemen, which we're doing for Saudi Arabia because Al-Qaeda participated with Osama bin Laden and 9/11, everything in Yemen under the regime that we are fighting to bring back, the one that we protected. This is a different regime. So it's what they're telling us is absolutely easily debunked. And then on the cover of the Wall Street Journal today, I've been flagging this week after week. Tillerson, I have to read this blurb to you if we have a second. Trump and Tillerson hardened the U.S. approach to North Korea, ruling out direct talks and raising the option of a preemptive strike on North Korea, which is really just declaring war on China. And this is Trump who said, why can't we talk to people?
That was his whole thing.
Yeah, and a preemptive strike is an attack. That's a euphemism. A preemptive strike, right. What does that mean? It's an attack. They don't have the ability to attack us. So this is big stuff, and we're not talking about it. And they put it on the newspaper on Saturday. It's big stuff. And then there's the other layer I think is going on, which is what you and I talked about in an early podcast that we did for Propaganda Report. Episode 4, I think, is my favorite, was Strategy of Tension, where they actually agitate the population against itself and for political purposes to try to the kind of textbook definition of it that I came up with then, not realizing how significant it would be, was to, how much it would really apply to what was unfolding before us, was that it was used to undermine democracy and have the people give up on this kind of civil society and call for military control of the government or police state. And I wouldn't be surprised if this constant agitation isn't meant not only to distract us from foreign policy escalation. We can peel the onion on that later in the show. There are a lot of signs pointing to that. But also this ushering in a kind of totalitarianism here at home as the population kind of gives up on the system. And I do want to take it light with our clips, but is it possible for me to do that? I guess I'm not. I'm always just going to jump down into the rabbit hole. So maybe you can throw me some whatever.
I can attach a rope to you.
Yes, throw me something that I can shine a little light down there. But I do want to have fun with it. But I feel like the themes that you're talking about are really serious. Their approach to it can be laughable, and hopefully we can strike a balance here. I want to get to some tweets. I want to get to some calls. 404-872-0750, 1-800-WSB Talk. At Monica Perez Show is my Twitter handle, and if maybe just coming up next, we can start with one of the kind of funnier, more outrageous clips. So stay tuned. This is Monica Perez.
Monica Perez on News 95.5 and AM 750 WSB.
If you're a Trump supporter, I'd like to talk to you for a little while about dogs and cats. Dogs and cats and horses and hamsters and guinea pigs and snakes and any other animal you love. Because with one change made under this administration, a lot of them are going to die, and a lot of them are going to suffer, and you and I won't even be able to find out that it's happening.
That was Keith Olbermann. Is that saying, basically just trying to terrify people? Trump's going to kill your pets, and you're not even going to know it? Like, what? What was that, Binkley?
He was referring to some list that they took off of some website. See, he doesn't go into any of the details really in his rants. He just makes these bold assertions and then says something really crazy.
So I've seen these. These are Keith Olbermann's. He makes this series of videos. I think he calls himself the Resistance.
Yeah.
Or that's what people say. It really makes me mad, though, because in September 2013, I did a podcast called The First Victory for the Resistance, which was about that Obama and Kerry were begging us to bomb Damascus and for the children because of the chemical weapons attacks, which later were proven to be from the rebels. So thank goodness we didn't do that. But the people stood up and they wouldn't even bring it to a vote in Congress. And I called that the first victory of the resistance. But now these guys have hijacked my term, and they are using parallel. There are a lot of parallels between the reaction to some of what Obama was doing and the reaction to Trump, although I do want to get into that a little bit. I feel like the Obama thing was more authentic. They called it AstroTurf, but this is obviously top down. When you hear this stuff, agitation, I think you call it agitation propaganda, coming down from the top to make people freak out about stupid stuff or unproven stuff. I mean, it's got AstroTurf written all over it.
Yeah.
So I want to get to more of that. I want to get to Alan's call. He wants to talk about the double standard in the media. I think that's for sure true. It's 65 outside the studio. It's a 7 on the Mellish meter. I thank you very much for your lovely tweets. Very much appreciated. I'm taking calls 404-872-0750. 1-800-WSB Talk, and we'll be reading some tweets on the air, playing more of these really outrageous clips. So stay tuned. This is Monica Perez.
It's a madhouse! A madhouse!
Monica Perez on News 95.5 and AM 750 WSB.
I am your libertarian voice on WSB, Saturdays from 3 to 6. And we're talking today, trying to lighten the mood a little bit, poking some fun at what's coming out of the mainstream media. I hear all this stuff on the news now that were like my expressions, the fake news, the deep state. I thought I kind of coined alt-left, but that could have been simultaneous discovery. But I think every one of those expressions came out in one sentence on Hannity earlier. And I just thought it was funny because people were look at me like I'm a nutcase in years past because I identified these background forces. Now, I think they're being whitewashed in the mainstream media. I think the deep state is not Obama holdovers. I think the deep state rises above and beyond parties and elections and even generations at this point. So for me, it's a much more serious thing. But so one of the expressions that I noticed just being used and overused was the left-wing media, left-wing bias media, left-wing mainstream media. That's kind of an old expression, left-wing. But I've always noticed there was a left-leaning bias in the media, not just on the left, but also on the right. When you listen to Fox News, they don't talk about we need to have no welfare state. They don't talk about we need that the federal control of health care is a violation of the 10th Amendment. They say whose policy is better. They completely stipulate that socialism is inevitable in this country. And so for me, I feel like the left-wing media is super, super left, and the right-wing media is kind of left too. And so I hesitate to use the expression the left-wing media, but this is kind of this what we're listening to. Binkley pulled some great clips for us. What we're really listening to is an absolute manipulation. It's a manipulative kind of partisan left-wing media, just almost kind of trying to brainwash us, not even with logic and reason, not like with evidence and convincing arguments, which they say they have and may even have. I feel like they're almost training us to not look for that, even from they who call themselves the standard bearers, call themselves the real news. They should be providing the names of sources, if at all possible, evidence to support their claims, coherent narratives that actually explain what's happening, give you an idea of what's coming. But they're not even doing that anymore, yet they still are trying to claim legitimacy. So I have noticed it. I'm going to try to take it lightly, but I'm keeping my eye on it in case it actually grabs hold and has a real impact. We might be in trouble. But I want to go take some calls, 404-872-0750, 1-800-WSB-TALK. You can also tweet at me at Monica Perez Show. I'm going to Alan in Atlanta. Hi, Alan. You're on with Monica.
Hi there.
Hey.
The liberal media is pretty much biased. And example is, remember about 7 or 8 years ago, some poor rodeo clown decided he wanted to wear an Obama mask? Poor guy was crucified, was fired, couldn't get a job for about a year or so. Also, that anytime a reporter or something said Obama and not President Obama, they would just go off on him, not showing him respect or anything. Yet here we are with Saturday Night Live, and people calling him despicable and a Nazi, and you don't hear anything, not a thing about showing him any respect.
It's quite disrespectful. I agree with that, and I did notice. I even wondered at the time, I really feel like the politicians on the left and the right, as a general rule, do not deserve my respect. I mean, I hate to even say that, but I feel like their business is to lie, and that they use this exalted position. They act like they deserve all this respect, and it kind of bums me out because they don't. They're contemptible in most cases. So, but I actually basically have just basic manners and don't try to disrespect people, slight people without a necessary reason. I try never to do it. But there is a total double standard. I agree with you. So when it came up, I'm just saying, when it came up with Obama, even though I did not think he was defending the Constitution like he took an oath to do, I hesitated to be disrespectful just because he's a human being, But with Trump, they really go crazy on it.
Oh, they do. And like I said, it's just the liberal media does not have any respect for our candidates or people we like but we are supposed to respect them no matter what. It's two-faced. It's a double standard.
Yeah, I think
and,
I'm going to...
And another thing, if you say something, even if it's a lie, 1,000 times, you're going to get somebody to believe you eventually.
Oh,
It's
for
just,
sure. And beyond that, if you are on their side of the aisle, I noticed this I call it the art of ambiguity. They put things out there, even just that tweet about Obama and wiretapping. There's two interpretations to almost everything that gets round-the-clock news coverage, so that if you're on the right already, you totally get that interpretation that the right is giving you seems obvious to you. But if you're on the left, the interpretation they give you seems obvious to you. So you have this, they intentionally throw it out there so that you can absorb it to your liking. But I want to go down the rabbit hole just a smidgen from inspired by something you said, Alan. I remember with George W. Bush, they were so abusive to him in the media that I would defend him, like kind of knee-jerk defend him, even though I just remember the tipping point for me with Bush actually was when he signed the bill that effectively banned Edison light bulbs. You know, he was the one who signed the bill to make curly light bulbs the norm in this country. And that of all the things I could object to, that was the thing that threw me over the edge. But what would happen, he was so abused by the media that I found myself dismissing anything the left said about him. I found myself defending him, and I feel like that there is an element of that, or certainly we could be experiencing that again now, where that it's intentionally divisive. They go over the top just to get people a little bit more polarized. I know you don't always go down the rabbit hole with me, Alan, so I'm not going to make you. But thank you very much for the call. I am let me take one more call, 404-872-0750, 1-800-WSB-TALK. You can tweet at me at Monica Perez Show. And then, Binkley, if you could cue up another clip, I will. I want to hear it. Right. So I'm going to go to John in McDonough. Hi, John. You're on with Monica.
Hey, Monica. Was calling... I was just driving down the road and heard your statement concerning that the left is going socialist almost downhill at a precipitous rate, and the right is going towards socialism as well, but at kind of a we'll get there when we get there rate. And so I've always, the majority of my libertarian friends, and you sound like one of them in regards to the libertarians that I know, are very motivated, very successful, fiscally conservative, but they're socially kind of, whatever will be, will be. And the problem that the right seems to see is that majority of the problems that eventually become financial problems or education problems or social problems for society stem when we don't nip social problems or social quandaries or mores in the bud to start with. If you allow, marijuana's, what do they call that? A starting drug.
Gateway
drug. Thank you. Sorry, I'm driving.
It's totally fine. I have an answer. I understand what your question is, and I'm going to tell you what my response is. That you are saying you have to nip that stuff in the bud. I am saying, as a libertarian, I identify that almost all of these problems are exacerbated by government intervention. That we have, that very few people, my son has Down syndrome, and I see him as in the modern society with the technological advancements that we've had, he could actually produce enough to survive in this society. That the percentage of people, the class of people who truly could not make a living, take care of themselves, is very small and would easily be covered voluntarily, especially today with the overwhelming prosperity we would have in a free society. And the Industrial Revolution, for all that it's criticized, all that history has been written about how awful it was, my understanding is that it was the beginning of a society that could absolutely sustain itself even at the most kind of unskilled basic levels, which is why Bismarck told the Kaiser to tax people so that they didn't have enough to take care of themselves and then give it back to them in unemployment and Social Security so that they would be dependent on the Kaiser, even though technology was making it so they could be independent, and that would rob the government of resources. So for me, the problem is that competition drives prices down. Greed drives people to produce more, to make advancements, but competition, real hardcore, uninterfered with competition, drives prices down, expands the economy, society, so that people can take care of themselves. So I don't think I think the government nipping it in the bud is the wrong way to look at it. The government makes it worse and takes away our social power to address those problems, and that they then have the government's only motivation is to be the last resort on that stuff. So they actually have a conflict of interest with us in that they want to promote poverty and chaos and conflict, because they're the ones who say they have the solution to it. But that's the fundamental difference in the thinking. And if you don't agree with it, that's absolutely your right. But that's just to clarify. That's what I think. And I would not, you were describing what libertarians are socially, whatever will be. It's not that. We are actual, I would say, just non-interventionists across the board, except for when your rights are being violated. So the government doesn't have the right to steal from you to give to somebody else, doesn't have the right to kill people preemptively. Only if there's a real threat of violence does the government have any power, because it's an extension of our right to self-defense. So it's not that we're socially whatever will be. Socially, you would probably have a much more conservative world in a purely free society, because you would have consequences for actions that are not insulated, and the actual problems would plummet. That's my view. I guess maybe I got a little off track with getting to the clips, Binkley. I'm super sorry. Let's just take our break now, and then we'll maybe come in with clip, get back on track. 404-872-0750, 1-800-WSB Talk, and of course tweet at me at Monica Perez Show.
Monica Perez on News 95.5 and AM 750 WSB.
8 is the high today. The low overnight is 40. Weekend weather is brought to you by Shoemate Heating and Air. And I actually was going to do the clips, but you kind of have to set them up. So I did promise them for this little segment, but we're going to wait till the top of the hour and dig into some funny Jake Tapper stuff. And Binkley, I have to warn you, Binkley hates Jake Tapper.
Cannot stand Jake Tapper.
So you got to get ready for a little venom. I'll try to talk him down. But
He's
I think
untethered to fact.
Untethered to facts. We'll have to give Binkley some space for that one. So I want to go to, I want to take a call. I want to go to Mark in Sandy Springs. Mark, you are on the air with Monica. How are you doing, Mark?
Yes, good. I'm fine. Two things. First of all, my heart goes out to you for your loss.
Oh, thank you.
I'm an older person. Boy, you need to cherish your friends and family. You never know.
I have to say, my lesson here is gratitude in real time. You know, you have to, every minute. You want to watch TV with your kids? Like, that's awesome. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, that's the best thing. So I cherish time, and I know the older I get, the more I'm going to get taught that lesson over and over again. But what you got for us, Mark? Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to coin a phrase from somebody, I don't remember who, but taxes are toxic trespass. And how toxic depends upon who's doing the trespass.
You have to explain it. Can you explain that in like 30 seconds? I have a little more than 30 seconds, but give me what you got.
Sure. What you were talking about, how I don't remember exactly who you said they were taxing the people to make them more dependent.
Yeah.
And so
it was Bismarck. Like, Bismarck said it to the Kaiser.
Thank you. And that's it. So, you know, like if you take oil, somebody has to pay a tax in order to get the oil out. The refiners have to pay a tax. The transportation people have to pay a tax. The wholesaler pays a tax. The retailer pays a tax. Wouldn't it be neat to have a gallon of gas for 75 cents?
And then they take the taxes and they build they overstimulate the economy so that people buy more of the gas. Like they'll build roads with the taxes that you didn't really need to subsidize. They subsidize that infrastructure, which stimulates the economy, which increases transactions. When really you might be happier staying home with your kids. It just makes it's a very complicated thought. I am definitely not going to get into in 2 seconds, but I will just in one passing thing say I've actually thought that maybe border wars have always really been about who gets the farmers' taxes. That the reason they've had wars was for that. More after the break, and this is Monica Perez.
This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to be. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
This is Monica Perez, your libertarian voice on News 95.5 and AM 750 WSB every Saturday from 3 to 6. And so we've been talking for the past hour about a variety of things, actually. Some libertarian principles. Taxation is theft. For all you libertarians out there, I actually had Mark call and say taxation is toxic. I agreed with him. I had an insight at one point in my thinking that I think the origin of war was probably, in many respects, even border wars in Europe and stuff, really just a question of which king had the right, in quotes, to your taxes. That's really what border disputes would be, not border disputes between two farmers, but like between two countries. Because what does the farmer care? He wants to be the guy who's going to take less. So I think that taxation goes beyond like just stealing, but it's really corrosive to any kind of moral system, social. People call it social justice warriors. I think the absolute opposite of that is the forced redistribution of wealth. Those are libertarian theories. I was kind of trying to lighten the mood today, and there's been a lot of really bombastic. I think Trump is a bit bombastic. He likes to drop bombs and see what happens. His tweet about Obama wiretapping his phone in Trump Tower was a bit bombastic, but totally justifiable in my opinion. I mean, that's like a nothing burger. Like, obviously, whoever, I mean, it doesn't have to be Obama. It's just the fact that we're all listened to all the time, including him, including Obama probably right now, They all are, and there's plenty of evidence of it. We talked about this in the last hour. If you want to go back and listen to the podcast, it should be up soon. We'll put it up as soon as WSB does on our website, propagandareportdaily.com. And so what we've been doing is Binkley has pulled some clips for us that kind of show this bombastic approach that the media is taking right now to Trump. And I'm going to put aside just for a little while what a total distraction it is, how ridiculous it is to focus 24/7 on Trump's tweet. It's so stupid, but it's so stupid it's actually gotten to be comical. These things crack me up. I haven't heard them all. Binkley's going to surprise me with some of them. You want to tell us, Binkley, what you've got teed up for me now?
Yeah, I have a Jake Tapper clip, and Jake Tapper is this pseudo-intellect, just super pretentious, who presents direct conclusions to his audience, and then he uses sarcasm to make it as though it's self-evident. He never actually gives any claims. Slow
down a second, because I hear what you're saying. First of all, I never had a problem with him, but you just dislike him. You dislike him so much that I can't stand him now either. But so what you're saying is, let me see if I got this right. He's got this condescending. I've seen the condescending look and attitude.
Evidence-free.
Yes, and he said makes these statements, and this, I think you might be tapping into something that really drives me crazy, that these guys feel like because they have a certain credential, like coming from, I'm the youngest of 9, my dad was a truck driver, and I was absolutely raised that like somebody's credentials, even their wealth, whatever, it has nothing to do with their class, their classiness, their plausibility, their honesty. It's often inversely correlated. So what really irks me personally about mainstream media or whatever. What they're doing is they're saying, I have this exalted position, so you, obviously, I know, and I'm going to look down my nose at you without actually justifying the exalted position by having more evidence, more research. You know, they have a lot of money, these corporations. They could have foreign offices, foreign bureaus. They don't even have those anymore. So they're not giving us authoritative sources. They're not coming back and defending themselves. So I don't think they have any moral superiority, but they really act like they do.
Yeah.
And it'll drive you crazy. So sorry to...
This is how he introduced a segment where he was talking about the Trump wiretap claim with Obama.
Okay, this is clip 2?
Yes, clip 2.
Okay, let's hear it.
Welcome to Obama Tapped My Phone Island. Population, President Trump. The White House saying the president has no regrets about his fact-free claim that then-President Obama tapped his phone last year, even though just about everyone else in the city in the know or with the power to investigate the claim says it's not true.
Everybody in the know.
I didn't even, I might have heard that before, but like what I said before about all the things, just right before you play that clip, about all the things that drive me crazy about these, is exactly what he just did. Can we hear that again? Can we hear that again, Ahmad?
Welcome to Obama Tapped My Phone Island. Population, President Trump. The White House saying the president has no regrets about his fact-free claim that then-President Obama tapped his phone last year, even though just about everyone else in the city in the know or with the power to investigate the claim says it's not true.
So everyone in the know or with the power to investigate.
Everyone.
So like, what?
Everyone.
Everyone in the know. Everyone who, it's like a self-defining group.
Yeah.
Everyone in the know knows this. So if you don't know it, then you're not in the know.
Right. Everybody who's anybody.
The fact-free claim, which it isn't, obviously, everyone who's been on this planet for the past 5 years knows that. I mean, if you've sent an email to someone about the sneakers you want and then see the ad for those sneakers pop up next to your email, you know that there's complete total surveillance at all time of everything.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to extrapolate that. It is true, though. They will, like Yahoo will give information about what's in your email to advertisers. I mean, there's just I think there's a button that you can actually turn that off.
Yeah, ads they're like, hi, Brad, hi, Monica.
Yes.
They talk directly to you.
Yes, so that is happening. They're actually following you around stores with their technology to see what shirt you stand in front of. That's absolutely true. And we know from all the stuff that came out about the NSA, from Edward Snowden, from just so many leaks and limited hangouts, even inside jobs where the leaks are for some political purpose. I think the political purpose is to get us used to the surveillance, to make laws that enshrine the surveillance, to make us aware of the surveillance so that we don't actually try to organize politically. But even so we know it's happening, and he just dismisses it. And I think there's something deeper there. He is trying to get at least the left I have this policy about everything, religion, politics, everything. Always refute, never dismiss. So if you have this, you can't say he's got a fact-free claim, like just shrug it off. You have to actually refute it. You have to explain why you know. So what was your impression of that?
Well, he does that all the time. He always includes words like fact-free, evidence-free, untethered to facts, and these other networks parrot the same phrases, and they just ambush their audience. And if you say it over and over and over and over again, then it becomes truth to the people listening, and they don't actually have to provide evidence.
That is true, and he does it. He in particular does it with that drop dead look, which used to not bother me, but now it does, thanks to you. But what I have noticed, I used to notice it in myself also, but when you have a call-in show and like thousands of people are going to call you and question you on your facts, I, for one, that's why it's kind of hard to come out with any kind of viewpoint that's not in the mainstream media, because if I were to say something that I read in the Wall Street Journal or I saw on Fox News, you don't actually have to defend that. You can just say, I read it in the Journal or I saw it on the news. you don't have to defend it. And they don't defend it. They say anonymous sources. Sources not authorized to comment. I have been noticing that for years.
That's all the time. And they're saying more and more sources. So instead of just 2 sources, it's like a dozen top officials.
Yes. I noticed that too. It reminds you of the movie and book, The Manchurian Candidate, where they start arguing about how many sources instead of if there are any sources, if it's true at all. So if you are like me and you don't believe that stuff and you want to find the real answers, it doesn't take much to find a deeper truth. Maybe it's not the deepest truth, but it certainly debunks half that. And there is even propaganda out there for people who do want to dig deeper. Super intellectual stuff that, will call into question some of the assumptions of the USA Today or whatever, but it's still propaganda. But if you want to really question the facts that are in so-called respected news sources, you actually have to have evidence.
Right. And even when you get evidence, you hear the other conclusion so often, it makes you question yourself.
And they're trying, I think that what they're doing, I think that 9 out of 10 times, even just in factual cases on the news, they have the evidence. They have facts. Like, I don't know. I think this Russian thing is total circus. But there's plenty of times where they have facts that could support their thing, but they refuse to set the standard that people should expect them to defend themselves. That's why they emphasize it's ridiculous. Anybody would know, anybody with any sense, or who would question a Washington Post? That's just ridiculous.
Yeah, the Washington Post. They're so credible.
And they do. I'm not even right now going into the actual stories that they have put out. Although you have a great example. Don't tell it. Let's save it for after the break. We'll do it in the short segment coming up of a mainstream news source actually giving like opposite information within seconds of itself. Opposite information with the same authority.
Yeah.
Which demonstrates to me that they have no respect for the truth. Let's do that. That'll be fun. 404-872-0750, 1-800-WSB Talk. You can tweet at me at Monica Perez Show.
Monica Perez on News 95.5 and AM 750 WSB.
Sunshine tomorrow, high of 63. Weekend weather is brought to you by Shoemate Heating and Air. And we are... Binkley, you caught some crazy thing. We were talking about CNN having no more credibility than anybody else or the mainstream media, but you had some crazy screenshots you pulled. We've got like 1 minute. I want to talk about a couple of other things. So give me in 1 minute what you've got there that you tweeted out earlier.
Okay, a lot of these headlines we see are rumors, but they're stated as fact, so they end up getting changed later on. The headline does when they're not true.
But they still make an impression, by the way.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
So CNN yesterday morning, the whole story was White House apologizes over British government over spying claims. So
wait, what? Say that again?
White House apologizes to British government over spying claims. Asserting that Trump and the White House had apologized. And I knew that wasn't true.
Because somebody said that the British government was the one who was tapping Trump on behalf of Obama.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And then so I knew that wasn't true, so I snapped a screenshot of it. Then later on that day, when we found out that it wasn't true, they changed the headline. White House, no apology to the British government over spying claims. Exact same article. Different headline.
Exact same article.
Same picture, changed only a little bit.
Exact opposite headline.
Yeah.
So what's the real answer? There was no apology over the claim.
No, there was no apology. In fact, they came at Trump actually said to Merkel during the press conference, looks like we have something in common with these wiretappings.
But we're the ones who did it to her, right?
Yeah.
Did the British government do it to her? Because that was one thing that came out under, was it Snowden or whatever, that whole rash of revelations that during the Obama administration they were listening to the calls of foreign leaders, including Merkel. I don't remember the British ever being a part of that. Was just us.
Yeah, he was referencing the Obama administration.
Dude, that's really dangerous stuff. Like,
it was
for
hilarious.
Him to really throw Obama under the bus, that's quite divisive. Because,
yeah, it is.
At a level of, I don't have any loyalty to.
I mean, the look on Merkel's face was priceless when he said it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
She wasn't ready for the Trumpster?
No, she wasn't.
Oh my goodness. So we have I want to get to some calls. I don't want to cut them short because we're coming up on a break. So Jeremy says that Trump was not wiretapped, so I want to hear what he has to say. he's going to be up first. But we have some. Don't we have more stuff on the British angle? We're going to maybe lead in with a clip that's right on point with that.
Yes, we do. We have a clip, a CIA agent talking about the British spy agency.
Oh, that's interesting. See, I was really out of the loop last week, as you know, and I know that what you were telling me is that Judge Napolitano pointed the finger at British intelligence also, and I kind of wonder if Judge Knapp is smoking the Kool-Aid now. But let's see what you got for us. 404-872-0750, 1-800-WSB Talk. You can tweet at me. I'm having a little trouble looking at my tweets, so I haven't read any, but let's keep trying. At Monica Perez Show.
You maniacs! You blew it up!
Monica Perez on News 95.5 and AM 750 WSB.
I am the Libertarian Voice on WSB every Saturday from 3 to 6. So we're halfway through the show. Binkley's been helping me pull some clips, play some clips from the media that are kind of outrageous, play into some memes that get a little ridiculous, the claims, the way these things are reported kind of make me laugh. I do think that that there's serious business going on in the world, but there is something interesting about this, what I consider to be a bit of a distraction. Specifically, what we're talking about is the dominance in the headlines of Trump's tweet of that Obama wiretapped him in Trump Tower. Now, okay, if you want to pick apart the details of that, when you're tweeting in 140 characters, maybe that's not the right format to throw out an accusation like that. But I think it's pretty clear. I feel like we've all already vetted this, that everybody's tapped all the time. So you can call it whoever you want. I do call into question this idea that what we're witnessing when the people on the right call the deep state Obama holdovers, that's just preposterous, in my opinion. The deep state is above and beyond the partisanship. If there is a battle going on here between intelligence and elected officials, it's not between Trump and Obama. It's between kind of us and the deep state. But I'm not even sure that this whole thing isn't a game, isn't an act, a play, so that goes back and forth and inevitably leads us to certain things: more surveillance, censorship, more war abroad. The latest thing was that the British, something that came out this week, is that the British were the ones who technically helped Obama with wiretapping Trump so that he could evade laws, if I understand what's going on correctly. And the funny thing is that actually, if you do go into conspiracy theories at all, there's a very plausible one that through the Fed, the Federal Reserve, through our history of banking, that central banking in this country was really something that Thomas Jefferson and the founders battled, or the good ones anyway, battled against, and that when it finally took a hold of this country, it was almost in a way the British recolonizing America, like the third leg of the Revolutionary War or whatever, the final chapter, and that really they do that through people like Cecil Rhodes, who had this idea of an underground British Empire that would spread the English language and English social democracy around the world and keep Britain on top, even if they were in the shadows. So when they say that the British are involved in our shadow government, I actually find that more plausible than Russia, and I think that Binkley, I can't hear you, but I think that there is an element of the British. I would just say I don't think it's preposterous. I mean, are you with me?
Oh, absolutely.
So did you not have, I know that, do you have a clip that's going to emphasize this point? Can you tell us what we're listening to?
Yeah. CNN and these other agencies are bringing CIA agents and former CIA agents on to, debunk any claim that Trump makes because they carry authority with them, because we should trust the CIA, right?
I don't know, that's really hilarious. Anyone who has worked for the CIA, I don't want to get into their legitimacy or what their real plan is, but they are they will admit that they're...
That's their job description.
Yes, they have to deceive. That's what they do. That's how they get intelligence. It's how they manipulate things. It's what they do. You're happy, if you're okay with it, you're happy they work for us.
Right.
But you can't, but they're not going to get on TV and say, this is just between you and me.
Yeah, I'm being honest this time.
I'm being honest this time. They always have to serve their own purposes. They have to. That is their job. So is that enough? Can we hear it?
No.
Okay.
GCHQ, they came out with a statement saying it was ridiculous for Trump to claim that. So,
GCHQ is
yes.
the British NSA.
Right, correct. Yeah. So they have a CIA agent on CNN backing up these claims, and the way that he describes GCHQ is the opposite of reality.
Okay, and this is clip 5?
Yeah, clip 5.
Let's hear clip 5. Thanks.
Well, Kate, it was ridiculous. GCHQ is the National Security Agency of Britain. It operates under very, very strict guidelines, strict laws. And for GCHQ to make a press statement like this, I've never heard of it. It's unprecedented. They are furious. The accusation that Sean Spicer made is Britain got involved in our politics, which for the British is a red line. And I'd like to add that if this White House continues to play with national security like this for political, partisan purposes, and frankly, bat around lies that everybody knows is a lie, this is going to hurt our security. And Sean Spicer is going to get people killed because GCHQ will stop cooperating eventually.
There's so much in there. Everyone knows it's a lie. He's going to get people killed. It's a red line of the British.
That's what I'm talking about.
That thing is so funny. And I'll tell you, in that moment of listening to that, I just had this moment of clarity of what an absolute circus sideshow this is.
Yeah.
That they're sitting there in some underground bunker in England saying, did you hear the Sean Spicer press conference today? I mean, that our alliance with the United States is over. How dare they suggest that we exercise any influence over their politics?
Just drinking tea with their pinkies sticking up in the air.
Yeah, and that this is, it's absolutely beneath me. It's just so ridiculous. They are, I almost wonder, if they're not faxing over the script for Sean Spicer and the CIA guy.
It's possible.
It's almost, it really feels like a circus. And I hate to belittle it, but when, I just feel like I just feel so manipulated when I see these guys say things that are outrageous or irresponsible on both sides of the aisle that play into it and really distract from very serious. We're not talking about Obamacare right now. We're not talking about the budget. We're not talking about, now I have been kind of off the grid this week, so I did not have the ability to get in there. But the entire 24/7 cable news machine is focused on this tweet and the idea that the CIA and Britain are just all up in arms and really people are going to die because of Trump's tweet. I'm sorry, am I taking it too lightly? Is seeing the humor in this?
I think it's insane. The British manipulated us into World War I and II, and they had spy agencies infiltrated all over the country. Them getting involved in other people's politics is what they do. And he's like, it's a
that's
red line.
Actually a good point about how these were wars that were not, people think that libertarians are isolationists. We're actually not isolationists. We're non-interventionists. But there's a totally legitimate alliance criterion and treaty criterion for even a libertarian, which is if it's a strictly defensive position. So we have oceans on both sides. And there was, I don't know if George Washington was this, or there were important people in our history who were continentalists. So their argument was that you would have very strong alliances with Canada and Mexico and oceans on the other two sides. And then you kind of stay out of trouble and you don't kill your people. You don't waste your tax money. I understand that you can interpret geopolitics as much more complex than that, but you can also interpret it as actually very straightforward. So, yes, the British have definitely been up in our business since they founded us. But, okay, finally, Jeremy, you've been waiting. Jeremy, you are on with Monica. Jeremy.
Monica, I'm sure you're a very lovely and well-meaning person. However, Trump could tell his supporters that the world was flat, and they would believe it.
So what's your point?
My point is that Trump has no proof. He has said insane things such as President Obama is not a citizen. He was born in another country. He has said that that 3 million people fraudulently voted in the last election. You have the House Intelligence Committee and the Senate Intelligence Committee, both of which are bipartisan, say that there is actually no factual basis for the charge of wiretapping.
Okay, hold on. Let's take each one of those things. I don't think it's insane to question the where Obama was born. I think it's also a distraction. I think our problem was that we elected a socialist, not that he might not have been born here. But the illegal voting, I have known many people who have voted illegally. Are you saying it doesn't happen? I used to live in California.
Monica, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but okay. 3 million illegal voters that voted in the last cycle.
But what makes
zero evidence of that.
But you know what? They haven't actually investigated that. Instead of investigating Russia leaking real emails, don't you think they should actually look turn over every single rock and make sure that our actual election process is valid?
They've done that in the past, and voter fraud.
What do you mean they've done that in the past? Who has?
There have been many bipartisan studies of past election cycles.
So you think that George Bush legitimately won over Al Gore?
I do.
And you think that John Kerry did not win in Ohio in 2004?
Correct. Yes.
Because if you look into that particular thing of the diebald voting machines and the extreme disparity between there was an extreme disparity between Kerry's exit polls and the true vote. I think about that particular thing, Kerry in Ohio, I think that there were investigations and the evidence weighs in favor of Kerry. I wouldn't prefer Kerry, but I think that was an example. And
well, Monica, you could go down many rabbit trails of conspiratorial theories, and your sidekick there that sounds like Charles Lindbergh regarding the world wars, it defies logic to believe whatever comes out of Donald Trump's mouth.
Hold on a second. So I'm the irrational one. I'm the one who's going down rabbit trails. And you think that everything that comes out of his mouth it's insane to believe?
I didn't say that. I didn't say that at all.
It was anything that comes out of his mouth. One should not believe?
I said that there is his supporters are very willing to believe anything he says with no factual basis.
Now here's the thing. Like this, what you're saying, you're using things like insane. You're making fun of us. You're making fun of my friend. You're telling me that you're sure I'm lovely, but I'm down in rabbit holes and there's no evidence whatever. But what I'm hearing from you is that exact thing. It's just dismissing stuff. You know what I mean? It's that ad hominem attack.
Give me the evidence that a Republican that is investigating this charge of wiretapping, there has not been one person with access to the classified information that has verified Trump's charge. So,
to tell you the truth, actually, I think that I don't even understand why they're trying to verify. What difference did it make anyway? Like I actually, I'm not crazy about your approach right now to me, but for me, I don't even think the wiretapping thing matters. Like, why is Trump even complaining about it when there was no harm done, right? Or was there?
There's tremendous harm done to our intelligence community when they're thrown under the bus time after time after time by this president.
And why do you defend them?
I don't always defend them, but when there is no basis, there's no factual basis for what the president says in these charges that are very specific. He didn't say I was surveilled. He said I was wiretapped.
Right. I mean, I have to go to a break, but yes, I have been saying throughout the show that if you want to parse the words and get into it, yes, it was. I think it was unmeasured to tweet such a provocative comment. That's true, but the kind of emotional back and forth here, the conflict this is generating is a manipulation, in my opinion. But I got to take a break. Tweet at me at Monica Perez Show.
Monica Perez on News 95.5 and AM 750 WSB.
66 outside the studio. Weekend weather is brought to you by Shoemate Heating and Air. So I just got a little hot under the collar with caller Jeremy.
Oh, yeah.
Brought some emotional, maybe like, could we dare say fact-free?
Yeah, fact-free.
But you think that he works for Jake Tapper?
Well, he thought I sounded like Lindbergh. He sounded exactly like Jake Tapper because he was repeating Tapper's talking points all the way down to the flat Earth comment.
Because he said that people who... Jeremy just said that Trump supporters, if Trump said the Earth is flat, they would believe it.
Yes, and that's exactly like Tapper the other day said. He'll say the Earth is flat, and they'll believe. I can't remember the exact phrasing. I'll look for it.
See if you can find. But what that demonstrated to me is this emotionalism. I mean, it's not okay to respond to, or I should say, it's not convincing to me to respond to somebody's claim with saying that claim is ridiculous. That was a fact-free claim. It's ridiculous. Let's just get the evidence out there. The illegal voting, the first illegal voter I met was a Danish guy in California. He voted for Bill Clinton, and he was proud of it. And I was like, you're not allowed. And he said, but it's better for the world. I'm a citizen of the world. That was it. I was like, Bill Clinton is not a legitimate president because of one vote. And since then, I used to live out there. At the DMV, illegals can get their licenses, and people on visas and stuff who are not allowed to vote, and they ask them to vote. I've known people who have said, I'm not a citizen. It doesn't matter. Register to vote here and now. It's kooky out there. So the 3 million number is obvious to me. But we have so many calls. Hang on. We're going to get to the calls. Maybe Binkley can give us more good stuff that's getting people riled up. 404-872-0750, 1-800-WSB-TALK. This is Monica Perez.
Please take my hand. Now open your mind to me. Please open your mind. Open your mind. Open your mind.
Speaker Ryan today, when I asked him, do you believe President Trump, when he said that Trump Tower was wiretapped, he said no. And he said that I don't believe any such wiretap exists. And also today, Jake, Adam Schiff, the top Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee, told me that he expects James Comey to say at a Monday public hearing that Trump Tower was not wiretapped. And Schiff himself has had conversations with James Comey in a classified setting. So we'll see if the Comey actually does that. But it seems, as Jeff was saying earlier, that the president is isolated in his beliefs here because he's got virtually no support on Capitol Hill on this statement, Jake.
It's amazing to watch the White House continue to argue that the Earth is flat. Jeff Zeleny, Manu Raju, thank you so much.
Was that Jeremy?
This is Monica Perez. I am your libertarian voice on WSB, and I'm on from 3 to 6. We're in the last hour. We just had a call before the break where it was a very interesting, exciting call, and I appreciate it because it's fun to have a little back and forth. So, but Jeremy obviously disagrees, I guess, with my take on things. And one of the jabs he threw out there was that Trump supporters would believe that the Earth was flat if Trump told them that. But Binkley had caught that he was stealing a line from Jake Tapper, who I guess is his job here is to make fun of people. Like Jake Tapper's just making fun of arguments. He's not actually refuting them, which brings him down, not up, But there was one thing I just tweeted, a great analysis by James Corbett Report, on the 2004 election being stolen. It's really compelling. I think there's a lot of material there. So I threw that comment out earlier when I was talking to Jeremy, but I like to back stuff up. I do not have a fact-free show. I like to provide the evidence, but I have an awful lot of calls. So what I want to do, I always take my calls if I possibly can in order of, so people don't have to wait on hold too long. So I'm just going to try to blow through the calls here. I have some lines open if you want to call 800 WSB Talk. You can tweet at me at Monica Perez Show. Oh, first I have to, did I not have, I had a great tweet from Casey's mom that said, "I'm surprised Jeremy didn't call you Putin's girlfriend," which I guess is what McCain, whatever Rhino McCain called Rand Paul, basically Putin's girlfriend, if I may paraphrase. So that was super fun, but I really want to blow through these calls. You are welcome to call 800 WSB Talk. I've got a whole other hour, so if you're on hold or call in and get on the line, I think I can get to you. But I'm going to ask you to just say what you got to say, and I'm going to move on. Henry in Woodstock, you are on with Monica.
Hello. Well, I appreciate you taking my call. I got a couple of points I'd like to make. I voted for Trump, and I'm proud of it. I wish they'd let him get on with his job. There's so many what I call Hillary whiners out there. It just breaks my heart how they're acting in this country. We need to get our country together. As far as the listening thing, back when I was in the Navy in San Diego, 1974 to 1978, all the time we would be told there was Russian trawlers off the coast of San Diego and L.A., and when we answered the regular telephone, we had to say this was a non-secure line because of Russian trawlers being in the area. Everybody listens to everybody. We've been doing it forever. Everybody ought to realize that.
Yeah, I actually think that's what Syria is all about. That the government, I believe, funded, I think Ray Kurzweil actually did the technology, but it would never have happened just from private enterprise. It's so complicated. To convert, I just want to say this, to convert voice to text is actually a very expensive, it was an expensive technology. And I believe that the reason the government wanted that is because it's easier to store and search text. So they listen to it, they convert it, they store it, they have the facilities to store it. Anyway, keep going, Henry. We're in a hurry. Let's go.
Thank you.
I love what you're saying. I don't want to interrupt you. Go.
Well, I tell you, I appreciate the call. And like I said, everybody's listening to everybody. It's been going on forever.
And that's the thing. That just acknowledge it. It wasn't the craziest thing to tweet. I mean, maybe it was a little, not super deferential, but I think those days are gone. Thank you so much for the call, Henry. I'm going to John in Lawrenceville. Hi, John. You're on with Monica.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. I'll be real quick. I think part of the problem, like let's say the CNN report you guys were discussing earlier, and this is more of an issue, I think, with maybe the way y'all approached it, is be a little more constructive in your criticism. I guess I'm having trouble. I know that they initially reported that they had apologized, and then they changed the heading of the story. But if your listeners would actually go read the story, that's half the story is discussing the early reports from whether or not they had apologized, and then they now flatly denying they apologized to the British. So I guess if I had a point to make, it would be, can you guys do some sort of constructive criticism in the sense of how do you want something like that to be addressed from the media standpoint? If certain sources,
I appreciate what you're saying. I do, and I'll tell you, I did start the show today by saying I was going to take a little bit of a different tack from how I normally take. I wanted to had a rough week, and I wanted to lighten up a little bit by kind of having some fun with how the media is reporting. I will say the reason, and yet maybe in that case to read the article, that was something Binkley had tweeted that really struck me as interesting. I didn't really investigate it. Normally I do investigate every little thing, but here's the thing, that it's been, if I'm not mistaken, quite well established. You can certainly see it for like Google search engines and stuff like that, but that when the media is hyper aware of the impact that headlines have, they know that people almost never, or the percentage of people who get the impression of the story from the headline versus what's in the body is tremendous. It's much greater. And The thing is, they should actually be, then I would say, more scrupulous about how they write their headlines. I am scrupulous about my headlines. And if I've ever submitted it to a popular blog, they change the headline. They make it, it's so crazy. They make it, I like to keep it subtle and interesting, and they make it like sensationalistic, and it bothers me. They change the pictures. I really hate that. So I just stick to my own thing. But they should be more scrupulous, and instead they're less scrupulous. And I don't think it's unintentional. I think it's intentional. And I really do appreciate the call, John. This is a little bit of a different show for me. I'm trying to lighten up, emotions close to the surface. But you're right. I do care about integrity, scrupulousness. But these guys also get away with a lot, like so many who manipulate people who have integrity. It's so easy for people who don't. And I think the people who write those headlines that way are like that they can take advantage of people with integrity, of high standards, slowing it down, and they can lower the game like that. They can really get away with it, whereas the other side won't. So I remember hearing, I think, Ann Coulter say the reason that Republican politicians can't get away with cheating on their wives the way Democrat ones can is that the Republicans really care about that. So it really is the death knell for them, not because the other side attacks them, but because their own side holds them to higher standards. I don't know if I would go that far, but I think the message is interesting. The point is interesting. Okay, I'm going to go to Jim in Gainesville. Hi, Jim. You're on with Monica.
Yeah, hi, Monica. I just wanted to make a couple of comments, if I may. You were talking earlier about your guest there, your co-host was talking about someone has been saying, about the British intelligence agency involved. The person that said that was Judge Napolitano.
I know.
Of New York State, who's he's a Fox contributor, but
yes,
he's also a supporter of Trump to quite an extent, I think. But anyways, he said that multiple times over the last week, and he said it most emphatically and most confidently. So whatever you think of his credibility, that's the guy that has put forth that.
Yes, that's interesting that you should bring that up because I'm a hardcore libertarian. I've always enjoyed Judge Napolitano's contribution. But when he started with that, I noticed that with Trump, he seems to be smoking the Kool-Aid a little bit. I'm not saying people who support Trump
may be true.
are smoking the Kool-Aid. I'm just saying that Judge Napolitano seems to be a little more partisan and support Trump as a Republican than he used to. He used to criticize Republicans and Democrats equally, but he seems to be firmly in Trump's camp. And I actually did wonder about that. I believe that Napolitano said that he personally, or that his inside sources gave him that information. So that's when you do that. Actually, you make a good point. That's when you actually have to think about the credibility of the source. If this person is saying, I personally have an inside source, then he's putting his reputation on the line. It's a little different from writing the Wall Street Journal. People unauthorized to comment. 7 to 9 people came out and said, this is Napolitano putting his reputation on the line. I have to scratch my head over, it seems a little out of character for him. But the overarching idea, I was just making the point that I don't even think that's that far-fetched. I mean, I think that there is a lot of maybe incestuous kind of back and forth with England, the UK, and the US, and the Russian thing seems a little more far-fetched. But I do appreciate the point. I've got more calls after the break. Lots more calls. And you can tweet at me at Monica Perez Show.
Monica Perez on News 95.5 and AM 750 WSB.
This is Monica Perez talking about all the interesting things that are in the media right now that are blowing our minds for the manipulation. But it's not just on the left. I heard John McCain calling out and trying to intimidate, manipulate Rand Paul. We're going to hear that at the bottom of the hour. I do have time for a call right now. I'm going to Maurice in Atlanta. Hi, Maurice. You're on with Monica.
Hi. I have an observation. Well, one thing, wasn't Echelon was set up before the FISA thing to surveil U.S. citizens, and it was based out of countries like England and Australia.
Can I ask you a question, Maurice? Are you talking about the Five Eyes program where the 5 Anglophone countries where they speak English are part of this spying network? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, there was a thing called Echelon. Do you know that?
Yes, I think the other name for that is the Five Eyes, where it's like Australia, New Zealand, the United States, Canada, and the UK.
I see.
We're part of like a surveillance network.
Right. So, I mean, it was a way to get around the legal restrictions of surveying U.S. citizens, I understand, but...
yes.
So at any rate, that's one observation. But the thing that I called about was mostly to get you to try and look into the research of George Webb. He has
I've seen his series of videos. I'm kind of... the jury's still out on him, in my opinion. There's some stuff he says is kind of weird. Like, not weird like rabbit hole weird, I can handle that. But, like, inconsistent weird. Like, I kind of wonder if he's not, kind of... well, I don't know, messing with us a little bit.
Well, certainly that could be true. The thing that I thought was interesting in the context of, he's essentially outlined the deep state, or the shadow government, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And it's all of its machinations, whether they're financial, military, or whatever, in a very specific way. So, I mean, if you looked at it,
are you identifying a specific video that I can watch of his? He does it all in videos, basically, I think. If you want to give me a specific one, I actually just tweeted a really good article, very simple overview. I'm sure it's very different from what you're talking about the deep state. I think it appeared on Lou Rockwell. I will retweet that at the break. Are you talking about a specific? Can you? I'm running out of time here, but
yeah, I can send you for your future edification something.
Yeah, send it to me. I will tweet it. I can share it with my audience. You can, anyone can follow me at Monica Perez Show. I've had people sign up for Twitter just for this show because we communicate back and forth that way. You can always get my references. I always like to have my facts checked, all that. I am looking forward to, at the bottom, right after this break, I really want to hear this clip of John McCain basically intimidating Rand Paul, trying to shut up, doing the opposite. I say always refute, never dismiss. He's just dismissing out of hand anyone who disagrees with him. I'm eager to hear it. Give me a call, 800-WSB Talk, or tweet at me at Monica Perez Show.
Maybe it's something really cool that I don't even know about.
Monica Perez on News 95.5 and AM 750 WSB.
I am your libertarian voice on WSB, Saturdays from 3 to 6. So we're winding down. We're in the last half an hour. I've got lots of calls. I'm going to get to all of them. But I did want to play a clip of John McCain basically trying to shut out discussion the way we're seeing a lot from the left. John McCain claims to be a Republican. He does put the R next to his name. But he's beating down, I guess, Rand Paul in this. It's worth a listen. Let's listen to that, and then I'll get to more calls after that. So can we have clip 7?
Yes.
If there is objection, and I note the senator from Kentucky on the floor, I will say before I read this, if there is objection, you are achieving the objectives of Vladimir Putin. You're achieving the objectives of trying to dismember this small country that has already been the subject of attempted coup. I have no idea why anyone would object to this, except that I will say, if they object, they are now carrying out the desires and ambitions of Vladimir Putin, and I do not say that lightly. So, Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent.
Is there President? Senator from Kentucky.
I object. Mr. President, I note the senator from Kentucky leaving the floor without justification or any rationale for the action that he has just taken. That is really remarkable, that a senator blocking a treaty that is supported by the overwhelming number, perhaps 98 at least, of his colleagues, would come to the floor and object and walk away. And walk away. The only conclusion you can draw when he walks away is he has no argument to be made. He has no justification for his objection to having a small nation be part of NATO that is under assault from the Russians. So I repeat again, the senator from Kentucky is now working for Vladimir Putin.
That is unbelievable. He was talking about Montenegro, right?
I think he might have been talking about Turkey.
No, Turkey's already part of NATO.
Okay, I can't remember exactly.
I'm almost certain it was Montenegro. I wish we had the first part of that. But so there's so many things wrong with that. I really want to get to calls, but I just want to say a few things that there were. First of all, he said, if you object to this, you work for Russia. Everybody here thinks you're wrong. Go. You know, like, yeah. And then what is he supposed to say? What is he supposed to, what could he possibly say to win the argument? I actually have a lot of respect for Rand Paul's style. I think he compromises. Like, he's considers himself a Republican first and a Libertarian second, which I would never do. But I don't smell a rat with him. Who knows? But I respect his style. He's unflappable. And that is he's a keeper. He's gonna last, because if you can do that. But I wanted to say something about Montenegro. I believe this was the country where I really, knowing what was going on there, really was an epiphany. I have to say this: it is absolutely wrong to include in a mutual defense alliance someone who could absolutely positively not contribute to your defense. It is putting your blood and treasure, as they like to say, on the line for someone you can't control and who cannot give you a benefit. But I believe it was Montenegro that, when I really had this epiphany, where somebody from there said, so on a podcast I was listening to, he said, there are these two factions, like the pro-Russia faction, the pro-U.S. faction, or pro-Europe, whatever, and it does not represent the majority of the country. But what it does is, by pitting the U.S. against Russia and making Montenegro a pawn, they would like to stay independent, the vast majority of the people. But by pitting the two, axes, whatever, against each other, you force all these countries to pick sides. And that's when I realized that having Russia as the boogeyman really plays into the hands of first polarizing the world and then kind of bringing it back together at the top. Otherwise, it's hard. How do you get somebody like Syria or Montenegro or whatever to take sides? You threaten them. So even if Russia threatens us and we get Montenegro, Russia has played into our hands, because I think at some level this may all be a facade to promote world government, and that everybody who has a stake in it, Russia, China, and I know that you've talked about, Binkley, I know you too, you agree with me that there is still a chance that that's what this is all about, that even Trump, the Trump phenomenon and Brexit are ways to get Europe to react and to embrace globalism in a way that they wouldn't have after the horrible European debt crisis. But I'm getting deeper than I wanted to. I really wanted to have some fun today. And we have. I was had a rough week and I was in a sad mood, and I feel like we've accomplished the goal of trying to lighten it up and have some fun. And actually, I guess taking stuff like this lightly riles people up. And I don't normally do it, but some of the way the media, and even McCain, like, that was just laughable. Like, that was just such a, if you were in debate in high school, you'd be disqualified. They're like, that's not a debate. You can't, that's not a,
He's a bully. Did you hear Rand Paul's response?
I just heard him say, I object.
No, I mean, like, he went on a show later.
Oh, no, what was it?
He said that John McCain's the poster child for term limits.
That's excellent. Excellent job. But I don't want to jump the calls. People have been waiting. I am going to go to Lee in Atlanta. Lee, you are on with Monica.
Oh, my goodness. I'm sorry. Let me.
Hey, Lee. That's okay. You were on hold for a long time, but you are now on the air. So lay it on me.
Thank you. Okay. So I agree with being case for term limits. But I really wanted to speak to your point about the illegal voting, because I also lived in California.
Yeah.
And I think it's hard for people, they just have their experience when they vote, and they might not realize how it is in other places. But I will tell you, I got rejected from getting a library card 3 times when I moved to California. 3 times.
Yeah.
I couldn't get a library card. I couldn't check out a library book.
I know. I can't anticipate the punchline here, Lee. Give it to me.
Yeah, but I could vote. And they they didn't want to see any identification or anything.
No, nothing. I lived in California, and I voted in California, and I brought my license out, and the lady was like, I don't want to see that. It was like I was going to taint her by showing her my driver's license, which, by the way, driver's license is not proof of citizenship anyway.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, they would just wave you off. They didn't want to see
They don't want to see it. It's like, we don't want to set any
check out a library book. So we've got to get our priorities here a little bit straight. And I'm always surprised by the people that, say that voter ID shouldn't be required. It's just amazing.
If you don't want to require voter ID, then you just need to acknowledge that citizenship or there is no eligibility for voting.
Yes.
And then just have that conversation. Because when I was in law school, I remember laws would get thrown out purely on the basis of them being unenforceable. It was kind of like a basic tenet of law that if you couldn't enforce the law, it was not a valid law. So if you're saying that you absolutely refuse to enforce it, it's not a law, and that's what you have to talk about then. But that isn't why you called, is it, Lee?
No, I was calling really about the wiretapping, but I was on hold and I heard Jeremy's call, and so he got me kind of riled up. But I was really calling about the wiretapping, and so anyway, so I think that everyone is kind of so against Trump on this because people that have been in the government for a long time maybe know it's going on. And when Trump had that comment to Angela Merkel that, oh, hey, we have something in common because you got tapped too, Obama found out in 2010 that she was being tapped, and he let it continue. So she was being tapped. He knew about it. He let it continue. So I think Trump was speaking to that. And wasn't necessarily talking about anything involved with the British government. Like, that's getting kind of thrown in there, and I don't think it's really the same.
Someone did call and said it was
Trump.
Judge Napolitano.
I mean, he was just talking about Obama.
Yes, and according to what I've noticed, and Binkley also, it's really Judge Napolitano who threw that little monkey wrench into it, which was interesting to me because I always really go to him as the voice of sanity. And even when I supported I have no reason to believe it or not believe it. It all seems like a circus sideshow to me. But let me ask you this, Lee. Isn't it a little kooky that they're bringing this before Congress and everything were there any damages at all? Trump said, he tapped me. Why even investigate that? So what? Who cares?
Exactly. Why even look into it? I think everybody knows to some extent it's happening. I can't go shopping online without later on getting ads for exactly what I was shopping for. So they're tracking all kinds of things. I mean, that's Google probably. I can go on different websites and I still get the little banner ads for exactly what I was shopping for. So we're all being tracked to a certain extent.
Let me tell you, it's crazier than that. I got an ad a couple of years ago for something I shopped for at the store. From that store, the same color, the shirt, in the color, by the designer. It was Nordstrom. How kooky is that? Because
crazy.
I know that they have that technology. I didn't know they hooked it up to my. It's crazy. So was somebody listening to Trump's calls? Yes. Do you think he was on his phone in the Trump Tower plotting with the Russians? Of course not. Nothing happened. Everybody knows I don't talk to my mother without thinking twice. I'm not kidding. I talk to y'all without thinking twice, which is probably stupid. But I really think about my email as like the place to be quiet, the phone, stuff like that. Anyway, I do have time for one more call. Let me go to Cosmo in Roswell.
Hello.
You're going to tell me what Brits think? Is that? Can you remember?
Yeah. Oh, no, absolutely, I can remember. I ended up calling in because Jeremy's call, and it absolutely twisted me. And I thought, oh my Lord, I have to call in from someone from Britain. I can tell you, first and foremost, that as Brits, know how twisted the media is in the United States, and does not escape us. And one of the things I wanted to mention is that so many people can't grasp that you can't have a debate with a party who refuses to accept that both parties have perspectives grounded in reality. And if you can't acknowledge that perspective, then you can't have a debate with them. And if you remain quiet, the other party currently interprets that as you conceding that they're right. And it's absolutely aggravating with the way the media is twisting everything. There's no playing fair, quote unquote, because the media will twist no matter what you do or what you say. I mean, CNN should be called, when news breaks, we twist it.
Don't you feel like this is reaching a crescendo, that it's just getting absolutely more and more form-oriented, more and more agitation-oriented, and less actual content under there?
Of course, because when you get people agitated, they don't stop to look for details. They don't stop to look for the facts. And, when you repeat talking points instead of facts, it does nothing more than reveal the bias on the subject that you might have. And it's absolutely ridiculous. And you were just mentioning that why would Congress and such go forward with investigating these wiretap claims? And first and foremost above it all, it's because Trump made a claim about Obama, and they're trying to defend Obama's, his history, his legacy. Of course he would never do that. That's the sole basis behind why they're pushing for it, because they want to say that Trump is lying, that Trump is wrong.
You're right about that, but it's just funny because if somebody tweeted something like that about me, I would totally shrug it off. I wouldn't even tweet back because it's, you just make it worse. I wish I could keep talking to you, Cosmo, because I just absolutely love outside perspectives. It really helps us. But I got to take a break, and I'll be back right after this. This is Monica Perez.
Monica Perez on News 95.5 and AM 750 WSB.
72 and sunny is the forecast for Monday as the work week begins, but that could change. So stay tuned to WSB for weekend weather, brought to you by Shoemate Heating and Air. We are wrapping it up, but I wanted to put a point on something that we were talking about earlier. Let's just... This is what I'm afraid of, that this whole circus is leading us down the garden path by distracting us. Let's hear clip 11.
I think it's clip 10.
Clip 10.
I worry that if half the country wants this guy to be president, we do need the UN to step in, or the United Federation of Planets, or something. I don't know. Anyway.
That was Bill Maher. So humor is like headlines. They can get away with saying whatever they want.
Yeah.
And it really makes an impression on you. Like my son did reading comprehension on some standardized test, and he was like, I am learning so many real facts from that. I was like, no. That's what's wrong with Common Core. They get to throw that stuff in there, and it could be about Martians, and they don't have to defend it because it's not it's not in the context of being factual delivery. So he makes this mistake. But really, the underlying truth, what's scary about this, is that it's quite possible that we are that Trump is so bombastic, or the Brexit is so scary, that it makes, starting with Europe or wherever, or the people here, the snowflakes in this country, forget all about the 10th Amendment, where you could just take it back. Be California. Go for it. Enjoy yourselves. But they instead want to push everybody down because, of course, communism is international. You have to have your brain slaves. Anyway, that's a whole nother subject. I'm actually not going to be here next week because the Atlanta Home Show is going to host a remote for some of my favorite WSB hosts. I will be back the week after that. You can always catch my podcast on propagandareportdaily.com or monicaperezshow.com. Had a rough week, but had a great show. Thank you very much for all the kind tweets and the support. Thank you, Binkley, for all your extra help, and Ahmad. This is Monica Perez.